The 15th chapter of Luke's Gospel offers the world an immense treasure. It contains the record of what has been described as three parables of mercy. They are the stories Jesus told in response to the accusations that he associates with tax collectors and sinners. The first is the story of a shepherd who goes after a lost sheep. The second is the story of a woman in search of a lost coin. And then we have our main parable for today, the father who goes out to meet and embrace his prodigal son. The parable of the prodigal son is one story that has enriched our culture, art, and the civilization in the most beautiful way imaginable. It reveals what is most unfathomable and intriguing about the character of God, mercy. The parable of the prodigal son reveals God as astonishingly merciful. To understand the image of God that emerges from the parable of the prodigal son, it is important to expose the many sins of the prodigal son. The younger son asks his father to give him his share of the estate that will eventually come to him. This demand is both disrespectful and thoughtless. In Jewish culture, the granting of the father's goods to a son might occur in the case of marriage. For instance, when Tobias married Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, he received half of Raguel's estate. In the words of Raguel, take at once half of what I own and return in safety to your father. The other half will be yours when my wife and I die. If you read Tobit chapter 8, verse 21, you will get this. Surprisingly, this is not the reason the younger son requested his share in his father's estate. In this case, the son was being delinquent. He was breaking the family ties and treating his father as though he was dead already. Imagine a son wishing his father death. This is extreme, to say the least. Someone said that this story would sound like an outrage to the ear of an average Jewish father. According to him, no father coming from Palestine and other surrounding regions would forgive a child who did such a thing. In fact, there is a related story that happened somewhere in the Middle East. A son had asked his father to divide his property and give him his share. We were told that the father was so outraged by the sheer audacity of such a request. It will say that it took 15 years of negotiation and intervention from friends and family members before this father could accept to stay in the same room to discuss with the son again. Yet, the father in our story today did the exact opposite. He not only obliged his son by sharing his estate with him while still alive, but also welcomed him back after the son had squandered everything. What manner of man is this father? The prodigal son did not make anything out of his share from his father's estate. No investments, no business venture, just plain wasteful living. He mismanaged his inheritance, living fast and loose. His elder brother even accused him of licentious living with women. Interestingly, all this pale in comparison to what the son did next. He went to work in a pig farm. Now, this is no light issue. To a Jew, no fate will be more degrading than to feed pigs for a Gentile master. Pigs are considered an abomination to Jewish people. The rabbis declared none may raise wine anywhere, and cause be the man who will teach his sons Grecian wisdom. To understand how much the Jews detest having anything to do with pigs, I would like to remind you about two biblical incidents. The first is the martyrdom of Eliezer in 2 Maccabees chapter 6. The second is also the martyrdom of 7 sons and their mother in 2 Maccabees chapter 7. While rejecting swine's flesh, otherwise known as pork meat, Eliezer and the 7 sons with their mother welcomed death with honor rather than succumb to a life of pollution. So unclean is pig regarded in Jewish consciousness that to touch it is to connect with something worse than death. There is even a more damning report revealing the moral abhorrence associated with pigs in Jewish culture. It is a story reported by Josephus, a renowned Jewish historian. In his account of Herod's cruelty, Josephus made an interesting observation. Herod was known as a brutal and murderous king. His thirst for blood was unprecedented. For instance, Herod's murder of the Holy Innocent, the hundreds of kids killed shortly after the birth of Jesus, has created a tale of horror in the Bible. His murderous quest cut across his family, since Herod would later kill his wife and some of his children. In fact, it was reported that as Herod was about to die, he did the unthinkable. He gave an order for the arrest of many noblemen in Israel. His reason for this would surprise even the devil. Herod sensed that given his wickedness, nobody would cry at his death. So he directed for the killing of those noblemen the moment he gave up the ghost. Now, get the perverted thought behind this crime. Herod believed that the death of those noblemen coinciding with his own death would create a spectacle of deep mourning in Israel, thereby convincing the outside world that he was such a great king, loved by his people. Can you imagine this? Interestingly, in all his murderous quest, the one thing that could stand in the way of Herod was pig. According to Josephus, if you want to stand the chance of living a long life and you happen to live in the house of Herod, pray to become Herod's pig than his biological child. This is because by Jewish dietary law, Herod is not permitted to eat pig. And because he's not permitted to eat pig, he has no business killing you if you happen to be a pig living in his household. So pig is one thing no true Jew will associate with, no matter the circumstance. Given this background, it is now clear what the prodigal son did by attaching himself to a Gentile who sent him to feed his pigs. He has reached the extreme level of moral depravity and corruption in Jewish culture. His fall was complete, and one could as well conclude that he was now beyond redemption. He has gone beyond redemption. This is the depth from which the prodigal son began his journey back to the Father. From the mire of the swine's pen. The mire of the swine's pen is a metaphor for utter depravity and extreme moral corruption. It was there that he came to his senses. What could be more daring in the chronicles of moral depravity than the journey of this wretched soul? Which father would forgive such a wretched soul? Which father? Even the prodigal son himself admits that his situation was hopeless. He acknowledged that he no longer had a claim on his father's goods. And morally, he no longer has the right to be called a son. He was ready to assume the status of a servant if the father would even consider him at all. However, the next thing that happened must have shocked the Jewish audience who heard the story for the first time. It was the image of a father who forgave the unforgivable. The elder son was so scandalized by what the father did that he refused to join in the celebration. Even the prodigal son himself was not prepared for the miracle of his father's mercy. It is the most beautiful sight to behold. The father runs to his son the moment he recognized his profile on the horizon. The father stopped him halfway into his rehearsed confession. He never gave him the chance to ask to be a servant. He was rather given a new robe and a ring. The fattened cow was killed and the feast was thrown in celebration of the return of the prodigal son. He was restored to the full status of a son. He was forgiven all. The picture here is one of sheer grace. No penance is required. It is enough that the son has come home. In the face of a love like that, we cannot be other than lost in wonder, love, and praise. What manner of a father is he? This is miracle of mercy. As a sinner, no parable has filled me with such hope of salvation like the parable of the prodigal son. Imagine the picture of God's joy in receiving sinners making their way home. This gives assurance of God's love to those who face death, wondering how God will receive them. Please, worry no more. Worry no more. In the end, we all might return home as sinners. So the parable of the prodigal son invites us to trust that God's goodness and mercy will meet us at heaven's portal. This parable is a testament to the boundless, unconditional love that awaits us. A love that sees beyond our failures, our mistakes, and our deepest sins. Just as the father in the parable ran to embrace his wayward son, God runs to embrace us. Not with condemnation, but with open arms of infinite mercy and love. Our journey home, no matter how long or difficult, is met with a welcome that transcends all human understanding. The parable of the prodigal son has a message for all parents and anyone with the care of any child. There are many delinquent children that want to come home. The problem is that many homes are unwilling to receive them. I remember a very sad incident about a young girl who was living with her stepmom because her mother was sent away by her father. When her father died, her stepmom started maltreating her. She stopped going to school and could not afford basic needs like undies and sanitary pads. After a fallout with her stepmom, she was forced to run away from home. A young man offered her accommodation in his house. Unfortunately, the young man got her pregnant. Now this girl is tired and wanted to go home. She met me as a priest and pleaded with me to accompany her home because she was afraid her people might not welcome her. When I started with her, I thought it was a simple task. We met with the people and the family members said that she cannot stay in their house. They refused. They told her to go and search for her mom who was sent away. That was the first time of seeing a human being rejected by her people. So many people want to come home, but the tragedy is that so many homes are unwilling to receive them. Are you such a person? The story of a father who welcomed a prodigal son is a challenge to all of us. There is also a similar story told by Ernest Hemingway. The story was published in a Spanish newspaper. It is about a father who had a fallout with his son. What happened? A teenage boy called Paco and his father, his wealthy father, had a fallout and the young man ran away from home. The father was crushed by this development. The father hoped the boy would return. However, after a few days, he realized that the boy was serious and was not coming back. So the father set out to find him. He searched high and low. He searched everywhere for 5 months, yet to no avail. Finally, in a last desperate attempt to find his son, the father put up an ad in a Madrid newspaper. And the ad reads, "Dear Paco, meet me at the Hotel Montana, noon, Tuesday. All is forgiven. I love you. Signed, your father." On Tuesday, in the office of Hotel Montano, the father was not prepared for the drama that greeted him that day. Over 800 young people who go by the name Paco showed up looking for love and forgiveness from their fathers. It was an unbelievable situation. This tells us that we all hunger for pardon. We are all Pacos yearning to run and find a father who will declare all is forgiven. So many people want to come home. So many people want to get back to their loved ones. So many people have done their time and they are tired. They want to come home. But the unfortunate thing is that so many homes are unwilling to welcome them. And that is why the story of the prodigal son comes to us with a renewed urgency. There is even another interesting story, and this story is connected with a song recorded in the year 1973 by an American artist called Tony Orlando. The title of the song is "Tie a Yellow Ribbon Round the Old Oak Tree." The song became #1 hit record in the year 1973, and the song grew into an American anthem of hope and homecoming, reunion, and renewal. The song has been used to welcome home soldiers who are returning from war, hostages who are returning from their captivity, and lost children who have been found. How did the song come about? The song was inspired by the following story. A young man is on a train, deeply troubled, nervous, anxious, and afraid, fighting back the tears. An older man seated beside him senses that something is wrong and asks the younger man if he's all right. The young man, needing to talk, told his story. He told the elderly man, 3 years before, I had an argument with my father one evening and I had to run away from home. I have chased back and forth across the country looking for freedom and happiness. However, with every passing day, I became more miserable. Finally, it dawned on me that more than anything, I wanted to go home. Home is the only thing, is the only place I want to be. But I have one fear. And my fear is that I don't know if my parents feels the same way about me. Given the many years I've been away from home, I don't know if they'll be willing to accept me. After all, I know I have hurt them deeply. I've said some cruel, callous, and terrible things to my father. I have left him an arrogant note on his pillow. I will not blame them if they never wanted to see me again. However, before this journey, I had written them ahead of now that I will be coming back and that I will pass through our backyard in the afternoon train this very day. And if they had forgiven me and they are willing to accept me back, they need to do one thing for me. They need to tie a white rag around the old oak tree in the back of our home. If not, I will stay on the train and stay out of their lives forever, knowing that they didn't want to see me again. So just as the young man finished narrating his story to the elderly man, the train began to slow down as he pulled into the town where his family lived. Tension was high, so much so that the young man couldn't bear to look. He started shivering and was tensed. The older man, sensing his fear, told him to bend down and said, I will watch for you. Just put your head down and relax. Close your eyes. I will watch for you. So as they came to the old home place, the older man looked and then touched the young boy excitedly on the shoulder and said, Look, son, look, you can go home. You can go home. There is a white rag on every limb of the tree. The boy's parents not only tied a white rag, they tied as many as possible indicating their willingness to welcome him back. These stories are shocking reminders that so many people want to go home. But unfortunately, so many homes are unwilling to welcome their delinquent children. The story of a father who welcomed his prodigal child should challenge all of us to rethink our attitude towards our delinquent children. The temptation every parent faces is to allow the child's separation to become a reciprocal situation. If the child separates from the parents may be tempted to respond in kind. The parable's model of parental love insists, however, that no matter what the son has done, he is still the father's son. When no one else would even give the prodigal something to eat, the father runs to him and accepts him back. Home beckons. May we all rise like the prodigal son and return home to our Father. May we sing like the prodigal son. Yes, I shall arise and return to my Father. May God welcome all of us home where we must have done our time in this world. And may the grace of God stir in our hearts the raw hunger for God's home. Peace and love of God be with you. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.